Right now, we're going to get a view on Asia. We're going to talk about the challenges and the opportunities in that region. As you know, Thursday today, last day of Sibos, is Africa and Middle East Day. But we really, since we were in Osaka last year, we haven't really discussed much on Asia so far at this conference, certainly not on Sibos TV. So we wanted to remedy that and get a view across Asia with some of the practitioners there. So let's introduce you to our panel. Next to me, I've got Mary. She's a partner at Payments Initiative Lead at KPMG Advisory. Also with us is Mark. He is the Head of Product Management Asia for Global Transaction Banking at the National Australia Bank. And Emmanuel Daniel is with us as well. He is the Chairman of the Asian Bankers. So thanks to all of you for joining us. Emmanuel, you cover practically everywhere in Asia. Tell us a little bit about some of the issues that we're looking at here.
I guess the thing we'd like to be able to do is to get a working definition of Asia. The amazing thing that I think of when I think of what defines Asia is that it's a critical mass of every little ecosystem that you can think of. If you take the Beijing region alone, Greater Beijing has 27 million people, and that's in some countries the entire population. And in that 27 million people, you can scale down and you'll have 10,000 people who are interested in one thing, and 10,000 people who are rock band fans, and another 10,000 people who are very conservative, and so on. So I think the idea is that to understand that Asia is cosmopolitan, and unlike other parts of the world, it's got the critical mass for any number of commercial, ideas that you may want to, you may want to push.
What are some of the main issues that practitioners like these are trying to grapple with across Asia?
I guess in financial services, just talk about 2 or 3 of those themes. Banking for the unbanked, mobile financial services, wealth management, just these 3 themes. And all 3 themes are equally applicable in Asia, and in some cases applicable in the same country, where someone outside might think that the country is defined by poverty, or it's more middle class and all of that. So I think that taking a structured approach is important to try and unlock the potential for any of these businesses that you might be thinking about.
And Mary, payments obviously is a huge part of some of those 3 themes.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because in our session that we had this morning, although we tend to think that in the emerging countries, people need more of what I call the third-party, non-banking, traditional banking solutions. And my fellow bankers that was on the panels actually said the developed countries need equally the same type of solutions. So like Singapore and Hong Kong, Malaysia, and all of them are talking about the same thing. So it would look like technology is a real important component in Asia. Right?
Yeah, and I think to that point, what we're seeing as well is the increasing use of faster technology, so looking for real-time payments that are going through in seconds, as opposed to the traditional time that's been going on 15-20 minutes for payments. I think looking at Singapore, they're going down a route called G3, and that's going to really, I think, revolutionise the payments industry within that environment. Australia also has been consistently talking about how they can get better payment systems and faster payment systems. So yeah, definitely there's an evolution going on.
When do you think all of this is going to happen? Because there's been a lot of talk, but when is it actually going to be in place?
If you ask me, and I would answer from a China perspective, actually it's already here. I think in China, there are more than 1 billion people with handsets. If we look at the largest social media platform, there's 600 million people on the social media. Everybody's on the phone, everybody's on what you call the social media platform all the time. The latest we have is one of the local banks who decided that since everybody's on the phone, why don't I make my banking application available on the phone? So, and it's very hot, and this topic, it's growing, and all the other banks are saying, yeah, it's a good idea. The stickiness is there, and therefore let's all get onto that platform. And And we are talking about banking on social media platform. So I think it's already here.
I think with the challenge as well, you talked about 600 million people. It needs really robust infrastructures to support that, and I think that the infrastructures themselves have still got a little way to go. We're seeing things moving through, as I said before, at a faster and faster pace. But I think that not everybody, not every country can actually maintain that infrastructure. And I think that you spoke a little bit earlier on about the underbanked as well. And you sort of think, how are they going to access that type of infrastructure that either relies on a mobile application, or it relies on having good access to internet and those types of technologies. And
in some of these areas, what Asia is learning is leading edge and defining, meaning you don't have the business models or the structure or the infrastructure to sustain the kind of sizes that we're seeing today. In the 1990s, in the US, when the banks were becoming more lean, you would get the monoliners with about 60 million customers. If you take First USA or GE Capital processing cards and so on. Today, an average Chinese bank processes 200 million customers. So in terms of scale, you're looking at something else. And when these banks look at around the world who we can learn from, they only have themselves to figure out how they want to deal with that. There are business processes involved, there's technology involved, there are risk management issues involved that, the benchmarks are pushing the frontier a little bit.
And I'll tend to agree, because I think in addition, I think in Asia, the banks are relatively young as compared to the rest of the world. So they don't have as many legacy systems as the rest of the world. So they don't have all these black boxes that they don't know what's happening in the system. So they are more willing and they're more daring to actually invest in some of the new initiatives. So when I talk about that, if you look at even in China, although the banking systems have all been homegrown because they were, if you like, determined by a different infrastructure and regulation before, but now as they open up, they don't have to do as much revamping as a European or American bank. So they are more, I feel that they are more ready, and for them it is more about how do I enhance what I have so I can provide a better service. And they are practical. They are, they don't have so much what I call reservations. They look at the market. One of the other things that in Asia that is very prevalent is, at least in China, a lot of the banks are going to set up their own e-commerce portal. And because they feel that they want the data, they want to understand the consumer, they want to understand their future, if you like, customers. So they are going ahead and say, okay, I can run a portal as well.
I was just going to ask you, Mark, I mean, one of the other big themes that we've had here is big data, and actually looking at ways in which you could analyze this data, get interesting stories and insights from it, and then use that as the platform, if you like, or springboard to innovate with new products. Is that something, what are you seeing either at your bank or some of your competitors that you'd like to also do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, to be honest with you, innovation comes at a price, as does the access to information. And to be honest, I think most banks have problems accessing the right information at the right time in the right form. And consistently, certainly National Australia Bank's no different, but more and more money is being spent on trying to access that information and make sense of it. So it's not just pulling information together from disparate systems into a single location, but it's also then being able to analyze that data and use it to inform product development.
What are some of the things, the questions that people will ask themselves, or some of the things that they're looking for, the gold nuggets, as it were, to try to inform that product development process?
Yeah, I think it's going to vary depending on whether you're looking at the retail side of it or the corporate side of the business. They're very, very different types of information. I think, speaking from the corporate side, which I come from, the sort of information that we're looking for is really around, payment types of payment flows, where the payments are going to and from, where we're seeing trends, where we can talk to customers and begin to anticipate some of their needs using the historical data, because customers are really looking for what is the next big thing, what's going to take them to the next level, and often they don't have the sort of information within their own ecosystem to be able to make sense of it and make investment decisions. So they're looking increasingly to the banks to do that.
When you take an average Chinese blogger, a good one would have 300 million followers.
Wow.
So and these are average, meaning that guys who are good and who are being followed on very mundane sort of topics. Now imagine if you have a successful business and the kind of data that you'll be looking at, from a cloud perspective. There's another dimension about Asia, which is it's a time dimension to Asia and a geography dimension. Asia used to be a lot of backward countries fronted by very successful coastal cities, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, and so on. Today, Asia is made up of a number of very successful provinces, and they can be anywhere. They can be Hyderabad in India, they can be Chongqing in China, they can be in Vietnam, Da Nang, and you find that it's even more fragmented in that there are winners and losers coming about in a very fixed geographical sort of space. And so when you think about Asia, you don't think about being linear in your approach. You almost have to be tactical, and the markets are very easy to define in that way.
I was going to add another perspective, and because a lot of people look at Asia. Asia has actually, surprisingly, I would say 38 to 52 countries, right, depending on who you ask. And actually, one of the critical things is that in each of these countries, actually, relationships still count, right? And culture and relationship comes with understanding the culture, understanding what is acceptable. And I think that's the other important thing that people need to realize is you can't have one formula and you go to every country and say, okay, it will work. It doesn't work. There's always a bit of fine tune.
In fact, if there's one common denominator of Asia, we all eat rice, we all respect our parents, and that sort of thing is what sort of makes us feel comfortable with each other as a region.
Yeah. I think it's not just the cultural side as well that is very important, but it's also understanding the regulatory environments that operate in each of the different jurisdictions. Certainly, as somebody who looks at product development, going across multiple jurisdictions is a really interesting challenge. You sort of have to become a mini specialist in the legal environment, the regulatory environment, the financial and tax environment in each of those geographies. So when you consider that you've got however many Asian countries you're talking about, and Australia itself considers itself to be part of Asia, sometimes, then it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Okay. Well, I can think of another common trend. Absolutely. We all eat rice, we all respect our parents, and we all like a good bargain. It's got to be a good bargain. Absolutely. Thanks to all of you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. Enjoy the rest of what's left at the conference.